Welcome back. Well, an international coalition of MPs is pushing for China to be stripped of the 2022 Winter Olympics amid growing concerns over the country's human rights record. British MP Ian Duncan-Smith, co-chair of the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, says the international community should back Australia during ongoing trade tensions with Beijing. Liberal MP Dave Sharma says a boycott may only entrench Chinese nationalism. Joining me live now is my political panel. We've got Liberal MP Tim Wilson from the Labor Party. Peter Murphy, thanks very much for your time. So, morning. Tim Wilson, you're a part of this group. Do you agree with the call to either strip China of the Olympics or boycott the Olympics?
Well, it's not something that I have been involved with, and it's not something I'm pushing for at this time. I share some of the concerns that Mr. Sharma has outlined, at this time, I don't see that this structure will need to be pushing, and that's why I say my.
So, is there a concern though? Imagine Australian journalists being sent over there. Indeed, anyone from the Olympic team might have concerns given what's happening lately. Can the Australian government really say, don't worry, you can go there, you'll be fine?
Well, as you know, Tom, I've had long held concerns, not months, not even years, decades of concern about some of the activities of the Chinese Communist Party before recent events. Those views remain intact. We've seen events which are concerning, whether it's actions in Hong Kong and the national security laws, whether it's around the Uyghurs in the western part of China, of course, issues around foreign journalists. And all of those concerns are serious, and I'm quite sure that we would be expecting that there would be a high degree of confidence about the security of our athletes if they go to any Olympics, no matter which country they're in. But this is not something I'm pushing for at this time.
Peter, we've also got reports now China is pushing Tibetans into forced labour camps off the back of the persecution of the Uyghur Muslims. Why would it be a bad idea, or would it be a good idea to boycott the Olympics? I mean, this would send a pretty strong message to China.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, I'm really concerned about these reports. But this is an occasion where Tim and I agree. I think that there is an opportunity here to put pressure on China in the lead up to the Olympics in terms of its human rights record, and in particular freedom of the media, which we've seen has been a significant issue. As with Tim, I would expect the IOC to put that pressure on China, and also to ensure that athletes are safe and able to compete.
Does it send a mixed message though? The world says, oh, we're concerned about human rights and what China's doing, and yet everyone's too afraid to, either boycott or take the event off China, given, how much prestige the Olympics comes with?
Yeah, Tom, I don't think it's a matter of anyone being afraid. I think it's a matter of ensuring that things are handled properly and diplomatically, and outcomes that are positive are reached. And some of the comments that Dave Sharma has made, I think, are entirely sensible about the way in which we can use the lead up to the Olympic Games as an opportunity to highlight some of the things that are occurring in China, and to leverage this in some ways for positive outcome.
Okay, I want to move on, and Tim Wilson, interesting comments from the Reserve Bank Deputy Governor. Hints, perhaps, not sure what you made of this, of another rate cut?
Well, I'm very cautious about another rate cut. Now, of course, this is a decision to be made independently of the Reserve Bank, but I've consistently highlighted that every time interest rate cuts come along, it inflates house prices and increases the price of assets, which is good if you're established or you're well-off Australians, but it comes at the expense of young Australians being able to afford to get into the property market and buy their own home. And so we have to look at the full consequences of the decisions that are going to be made. We have to be very mindful of the very real risk that we can see asset price inflation as a consequence of short-term measures. When we already have very low interest rates, it's unlikely to do much to stoke greater investment. The cost of capital is not the barrier at the moment. There is plenty of cash in the economy. And the much bigger challenge, as the RBA themselves has outlined, has been the challenges of structural reform. And of course, the budget will be part of that discussion in the coming weeks, as it will no doubt next year as well, in the May budget 2021.
Peter, what do you make of this hint from the RBA and the policy setting here?
Look, we'll see. We'll see what the RBA does. And of course, one of the issues with Australia's economy more broadly is that there were real structural problems before COVID and before the recession. And we had significant problems with stagnant wages and cost of living. So, there is a huge amount of work that this government has to do in this budget and looking into the future to be able to support Australians to get through, regardless of what the RBA does. And we're looking for the government to provide significant support to businesses and Australians through JobKeeper and JobSeeker, which, as you know, are about to be cut significantly.
All right, and just finally, energy plan being detailed, the technology roadmap as it's called, Tim Wilson, a hint from the Minister, a new target coming, a 2035 target within the next couple of years. Are you hoping this really is quite an ambitious one?
Ambitious targets, and I'm sure we'll continue to compound on them, because what this government is doing is stewarding a transition of the economy through the energy sector and other parts of the economy. I think this is one of the most critical parts of the Coalition's climate action plan, is that it's targeting energy, yes, but it's also targeting things like transport fuels, like agriculture, like land use. We're seeking to transition the whole economy while taking Australians with us and not penalising those who are less well off or those on lower incomes as a consequence of the decisions we're making. We're setting a clear and ambitious agenda that takes the whole of the country forward together towards a more economically and environmentally sustainable path.
And Peter, Labor has its 2050 target. A bit of internal debate about whether it will have a 2030 or 2035 target. What do you think? Just fall in line with the government's short-term one and keep 2050, or keep being ambitious in the short term?
I think that the government's got a lot of nice words here and a lot of nice announcements, but no actual delivery. And we've got a roadmap to nowhere at the moment. We've got the 22nd energy plan coming out. We've got a complete failure to commit to net zero emissions by 2050. So we'll wait and see, won't we, whether or not this government does have an ambitious target for 2035 or indeed any target. And hopefully at some point someone in your government will talk about renewables, because that's the absolute thing that's been missing from everything that's been said this week from the government. What about renewables?
That was actually including the energy roadmap.
We'll see if Labor has that target. As Tim said, there is a 2030 target from the Coalition. We'll see what Labor, where it moves on this. But we're out of time. Peter Murphy, Tim Wilson, talk again soon. Thank you. When we come back, expecting Victoria.